Hey everybody, who's your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 6 of season 5 of The Walking Dead called Consumed. And this is our big Carol and Daryl episode. And it's really kind of getting them to a place that we already knew that where they were going. We knew that Daryl was going to turn up at the church with somebody, and this episode makes it pretty darn clear that that's Noah. And we knew that Carol was going to end up at the hospital. But here, this kind of really fills in the gaps as to how they got into those positions, and also gives us some time to sort of look at, to remind us of where Carol and Daryl started from, and where they are now, and kind of compare and contrast. And people have been talking a lot since the early days of the show just how similar these two characters really are. I mean, both of them came from very abusive backgrounds, and that over the course of the show we saw that the person who had been abusing them die, and then the two of them just keep getting more and more badass as time goes on. So again, it was sort of also helping us to really make sure that these two reconnected. And I totally had that place pegged as soon as Carol, as a battered women's shelter, as soon as Carol kind of went in there. And also keep in mind the other place that she went to was a law office. You kind of help but wonder if maybe this wasn't a place where maybe before everything went to hell she was sort of working on getting herself and Sophia out of there away from her husband Bob, and that maybe those law firms were helping her to get a divorce and make sure that she would retain custody of Sophia. So it sort of makes sense that as we do see that Carol never really strays that far away from where the group is, because she can see the two fires, and she's able to go over there to the prison and all this. So again, she's never actually very far away from Rick and the others. But it does make sense that she would go to places that she felt safe. So if that's the case with the law office, if that was a place where people were trying to help her, and the zombie apocalypse hit just before she could get away from Bob, then it makes sense that she would be familiar with that place and can feel safe there. And that when she started thinking about, well, okay, where can I go? That maybe that would be a place that she would turn to. And a lot of stuff at the shelter that was just real emotional punches in the gut. Discovering a mom and kid zombie in there, and Daryl quietly being the one to take care of that, and burning the bodies, shows again Daryl's more compassionate side. I mean, the fact that he just really spared Carol that, and you know that it was going through Carol's mind that if things had happened just a little bit differently, then that could have been her and Sophia turned into zombies in that room. And of course, the whole just fact that, hey, there's a zombie kid in there has to once again remind Carol of Sophia, who she hasn't really mentioned in a long time. Understandably so, though. And let's see, what else? Also, there was that dealing with abuse book. People have even commented that it was like a Charlie Override Emergency Awesome. You sort of mentioned that it would be really heartbreaking later on if we were actually see Daryl reading that book at some point, seeing as how he did take it away from her. And I'm a little unclear as to exactly why Carol did that. I mean, she's put Bob pretty far behind her. She even has mentioned that if she sort of feels like the old her has been burned away and new badass Carol has taken her place. But it is certainly something interesting to think about. And we also again did get to see Carol's more compassionate side as well when she intervened to help save Noah. Now I don't think that for a minute that Daryl was realistically going to let that zombie eat Noah. I think he was just dicking with him to sort of teach him a lesson about having stolen his stuff. And speaking of Noah briefly, good God, everybody on Twitter was just constantly making everybody hates Chris jokes the whole time he was on screen. It's just like, God, I hate people who think they're original. It's like when I used to work retail, and people, if something wouldn't ring up properly, somebody would go, "It's not ringing up. Guess it's free." I swear to God, I got that at least 2 or 3 times a day. And then there were people who were genuinely surprised when I didn't laugh, or when I kind of gave them my, retailer, "Are you fucking kidding me? That's not funny at all. I can't believe you actually said that look." Although the worst were the people that after I did that would go like, "Hey, come on, it's a joke. You're supposed to laugh." Of course, then I get to lay I hear that 2 or 3 times every single day line on them, and then usually they'd look very disappointed, which would cheer me up immensely. But anyway, nothing particular to say about Noah this episode. But it does seem that he was sort of sticking close to the hospital, gathering weapons and supplies and stuff, for probably trying to figure out a way to sneak back into the hospital and save Beth and get her out of there. So it does sort of go to show us that Noah is probably a very loyal person who he definitely did not forget what Beth did for him, the sacrifice that she made. And he's almost certainly pretty aware that she's going to suffer some pretty serious consequences for what happened in there. And you have to think that Noah is probably almost certainly aware of what Gorman had been doing to Joan. You have to wonder if maybe he's not worrying that this sort of thing has happened to Beth as well. And keep in mind, he has no way of knowing that Gorman is dead, thankfully. Anyway, not much else to say about Carol. Although I did really love that scene where she immediately after she is told to leave by Rick, she drives off and she just immediately breaks down in tears. Carol and Daryl are both really great examples of, one, good characters on the show, but they really showcase how one of the best ways to make good and interesting characters is to really have them at times show, their badass side, and then also to show their vulnerabilities. Because people aren't made out of stone. Even the toughest person in the world has, those sore spots, those raw moments, those moments of terrible pain when they've lost something. And it's, in my book, not really a sin to show these sort of things. Because some people get really upset if a character who's normally really badass, has something bad happen to them, and kind of they start crying about it. And they sort of like equate that with whining or being weak. If you ever read a lot of stuff from ancient Greece, characters like Hercules or whatever, whenever bad things happened to them, they cried. And the thing with the Greeks is, they didn't consider men or people who were tough crying to be a sign of weakness. It was a sign that they were human, that they cared about things, that they actually gave a damn about the world and the people around them. If you were to just sit there and after something terrible had happened and just sort of were a statue, well, as I understand it, the Greeks wouldn't have thought terribly highly of that. Something to keep in mind. But in any case, I do sort of agree with that Greek point of view, that people crying simply shows not weakness, but that they are human, that they feel, and that they care. Now, Daryl's a little bit of a different case. Daryl is not a guy who does crying, but Daryl shows that he cares in a lot of other ways. Daryl shows it by doing thoughtful things like taking care of the mother and kid zombie and then burning the bodies just so that Carol won't have to go through with that. He shows that he cares when he gets angry about Carol basically doing dumb stuff. I mean, again, that's just sort of the way that Daryl shows that he cares about people. And again, we did sort of get that moment where he did was looking like he was maybe going to feed Noah to the zombie. Again, just sort of teach him a lesson. And also he got to have that really nice scene where he just lights up a cigarette and walks off. Again, looking very badass. But again, at the end of the day, Daryl is in fact a good person and a very compassionate person. But he's also a guy with a lot of rough edges. So again, that is absolutely one of the reasons why Daryl is one of the best characters on the show. I mean, people love Daryl because he's badass, but these also love him because he's a person who feels a lot of pain. And you see that pain in Daryl. He doesn't, as we said, cry, but he doesn't exactly hide it either. He doesn't just sort of put on a mask. He just manifests it in a different way. Lots of good action in this episode. Lots of zombie butt kicking. Love that. The scene with the ambulance on the bridge. I know that I wasn't the only one who was like, there's no way in hell that thing would have landed on its wheels when it went over there. And again, that's just one of those things where you have to go, it's like, okay, TV, that's stupid. You know it and I know it, but we're just gonna go along with that. And again, Do keep in mind though that, and people also kind of know, like, shouldn't they have actually been hurt from that? Well, one, we did see them putting on their seatbelts, and if you pay really careful attention after they land, you can see that the airbags have in fact deployed. So that probably made it so that they could get away from there. And it did seem like Carol was at least a little bit hurt in the accident because Daryl had to help her get away. Pretty darn lucky for them that there were no walkers hanging around down there. Although the bit where it's literally raining zombies, well, it's not the first time they've literally had zombies fall from on above, but that's still pretty hilarious and kind of awesome too. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, I have to say, like the walker that was entirely trapped inside the sleeping bag, that was just hilarious as well. And ditto the ones who were like stuck inside the tent. That was just oddly funny. Also, we got to see that again to kind of swipe one from Charlie over at Emergency Awesome. Even in the zombie apocalypse, you need to look both ways before you cross the street. So now we know that despite what a lot of us, including me, were speculating earlier, Carol ending up at the hospital was in fact an accident. It was not part of a plan. And yeah, I kind of have to say that in thinking about it, I don't think that they would have gone with an infiltration plan like that. There's just too much that could have gone wrong. What I imagine is that Daryl and Noah are going to go get Rick and the gang, possibly round up Abraham and company. And just as an aside, just because Dragon Age Inquisition's coming out, I've been looking at some old Dragon Age stuff, and it really just hit me that Abraham and Aughrim look remarkably alike. I mean, seriously, look at those two characters, and the resemblance is really, really uncanny. I mean, I'm not saying there's any kind of a connection. This is just doubtlessly a coincidence. The only real major difference to me, in fact, is really that Aughrim has just an even more epic mustache. And given the stash that Abraham is currently sporting, that's really saying something. But anyway. Man, now I'm just gonna picture the guy who plays Abraham as like a dwarf in a fantasy campaign. Man, that would be awesome. But anyway, so what I imagine they're probably gonna do is get the others, and they're probably gonna basically figure out a way to sneak into the hospital and get Beth. And since there's only 2 episodes left until the mid-season finale, I think that the hospital taking out the hospital and putting an end to Dawn and her gang of extremely thuggish cops is going to be the mid-season climax. And then I think, from what I understand, it's probably going to get back on the hey, let's go to Washington D.C. thing. Although now that Eugene's been exposed as a liar, they're going to need a new reason to go to D.C. So, maybe they'll find something in the hospital. That's certainly a possibility. But in any case, they can't stay at the church, and the prison's gone. Obviously, they don't want to stay in the ruins of Atlanta. And oh yeah, I almost forgot. We got to see Rick's tank again. It was just there for a second, but it's just like, oh man, it's Rick's tank. But anyway, guys, good episode. In fact, I would easily call this one of the best, probably the best episode of the season so far in terms of just sheer characterization. The start off episode of the season probably takes the cake in terms of action, but in terms of character moments, I have to say this episode was easily the strongest. So with that said, guys, as always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.